All right. Well, thank you for inviting me back again to be with the Scrum Masters of the universe, Jamie. I love connecting with people around the world and sharing what I've learned and to learn from you as well. I'm going to share my slides here to orient us to today and also give you a little overview of who I am in addition to what Jamie said. So today we're going to be talking about perhaps my favorite topic because it has been so transformative for my life personally and with honestly every single client of mine as well, how we can break the telling habit and amplify our impact. And this is an important skill and habit to break for any leader, continuous improvement practitioner, agile practitioner, and human being, in fact. So I'm really excited to hear some of your takeaways and how you are going to start taking some action to break your own telling habit as well. As Jamie mentioned, I am a leadership coach and consultant. I'm a best-selling author. It's been such a privilege of mine to partner with 40-year Toyota leader Isao Yoshino to capture his just wealth of wisdom and humanity into this book, Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn. I'm a speaker, and I also, in non-pandemic times, lead trips to Japan to learn for people such as yourselves to learn more deeply about the origins of these concepts that we're talking about. Jamie and I have a shared common history of different times in our life, but I lived in Japan in 2015 and 16, which is where I met Mr. Yoshino and really got to deepen my own practice of continuous improvement and really the essence of all that we have that sprouted from there, be it agile, Scrum, lean, whatever, but these foundations are what we're talking about. And my purpose, as I've come to know it and describe it, is to inspire people around the world to live and lead with intention. And I wanted to share too, one of very exciting news. My book just got published in Japanese, and I'm so thrilled, Mr. Yoshino. It's like in bookstores across Japan, and it's such a wonderful thing to see Mr. Yoshino taking selfies with his new iPhone across Japan. And I saw a few people from Poland too. The book's coming out in Polish in the next few months, and it's also translated into Spanish already. So, but the English is available as well. And we're going to talk about this word intention and come back to it at the end of our session here today, and why I believe it is so important for us, no matter what methods we use and the actual work that we're doing. Intention, as I've come to learn and discover it, is about connecting your heart and your purpose and aligning your directions in that action. Your actions in that direction. So we need to connect with what's our role, what's our purpose, who do we want to be, and then what are the actions that are most going to have the impact that are aligned with that. And one of the biggest disconnects I see across humanity is that we are in a habit of telling, and that this actually has, in many cases, the opposite impact than the purpose in our sort of a heart of what we really want to be achieving. So that's what we're going to focus on here today. And also about this concept that it doesn't matter what process you're using, what your methodology is, what the tool is. All of those things are in service towards learning more effectively and having a people-centered approach as well. So as Mr. Yoshino told me one day after I was probably several months of me asking this question, what's the secret to Toyota? It really comes back to an attitude towards learning. So how can we keep that principle first and foremost in our minds, and then know that the processes and the tools and the structures that we have and the methods are all in service of learning more effectively so we can achieve the outcomes that we need. And of course, concepts like flow and Kanban and all of that is really important as well for how we do that, but it's all essentially about learning. So what we're going to be covering today in the next sort of 40 minutes or so, 35, 40 minutes, and we're going to have time for some questions and discussion as well, because I love hearing from you. We're in the middle of our welcome and overview. We're going to dive into this habit of telling and what I call these leadership continuums that we all have to navigate. We're going to dive into some concepts about how the power of asking and listening and how you can do that more effectively, how you can lead with greater intention by learning to lead and leading to learn, how you can strengthen your own habit of asking. And then at the end, I'm going to ask you to set your intention and invite you to continue your learning as well. And of course, we'll have some questions. And my intention for you today is to have some fun over the next hour or a little less than an hour, learn something new, feel inspired, and walk away with an identified goal or action that you can take to help really break your own telling habit. So without further ado, I'm going to ask you to set your intention in the chat today and just reflect on where you're at. And if you're watching this recording later, just take a moment to pause. Where are you today on the scale of 1 that you're like, the screen's on, but you're really not paying attention, which in case you're not probably going to put anything in the chat. 2, 7, I'm fully engaged and I'm here. And it's okay to be across this continuum, but this is an opportunity for you to reflect and check and adjust. So please put that in the chat. Great, seeing a lot of 4s, 5s, 6s, a 6.5, very precise. So great. I'm glad you're all here today and looking forward to diving into it. And please throughout, put any questions and comments into the chat. Jamie can help me manage that as well. We're gonna have some break points throughout where we can have some reflection and discussion as well. So let's see, not moving forward, here we go. All right, so we have a first reflection question before I get into telling. I wanna ask you something. So if you think about the teams and the organizations that you work with or in, and if we're really trying to create this culture or an environment where people are contributing to solving problems and innovating and making things better, what discourages people from thinking and taking responsibility for problem solving and innovation? Put your ideas in the chat here. And we'll respond. Speed. Failure, you fear of failure. That's a big one. One person dominating the conversation, thinking they may be wrong, feeling doesn't matter, ideas start but don't finish, lack of ownership, whether or not leadership supports, history, intimidation, daily priorities, overwhelm. Yeah, all of this criticism and fear. Yes, this one around fear and being blamed is huge and something we need to address. But I advocate here, and this is how it connects to the telling habit, that one of the biggest barriers to people thinking and taking responsibility for problem solving is something we're often not even aware of that we're contributing to. And that is that when you or I or someone else jumps in to tell someone what to do, like exactly what to do, not where we need to go, that's like, or what the target is or the direction we need to go, but exactly telling them exactly what to do, giving them the answer. And the unexpected consequence of this, in addition to people often feeling disengaged or not part of the solution, or that they were, not bought into this, or all these things that you said here, lack of collaboration, not being given the opportunity because someone else is telling them what to do. When you jump in to tell someone exactly what to do, even though it feels quicker sometimes in the moment, you end up owning the problem. And so we end up in this vicious cycle that we are feeling compressed for time. We, in our hearts, know that we want to develop other people's capabilities. We want them to contribute, but it just feels easier to sometimes tell people what to do, to be faster, or to help get to the answer. And we're missing the opportunity for learning. And then you're creating this cycle for yourself where you're still feeling like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed by all the things I have to do, because you've taken on the responsibility for all those problems. And so we become in this mode of firefighting all the time without even realizing that we're actually fueling the fire by jumping in and telling people what to do rather than giving space for growth. And I'm not here to say that telling is bad. It's over here, it's a continuum and it's a balance. It's about knowing when to tell and when to ask and what the impact is and what's right for the moment. And that's really the art of leadership and coaching and consulting as well. How do we know when to tell and when to ask so that we can cultivate more growth and solve more problems and get out of this cycle of firefighting, and know that sometimes there are times where we need to jump in and solve those, put out those fires when there's a real crisis or emergency. But we are in this sort of mode or habit of feeling like everything is an urgent crisis that has to be fixed now, rather than opportunities for growth and learning. So one of the contributors on this scale is something that we're conditioned to for helping. So this is one of the other continuums that I talk about. And this was inspired by the work of Edgar Schein, who is a professor emeritus of MIT, who studied organizational development and relationships over many, many years. And he's in his 90s now, still writing. I encourage you to read some of his work. It's very accessible. He's written some books called Helping and, and Humble Inquiry. And in one of his books, or in his work, he talks about there are different roles that we play to be helpful. And it's human nature to want to help people solve a problem, to move forward, to get up. This is sort of part of our, just sort of our psyche and our who we are as human beings. There are different, well, they're all effective, but they have different impact. And on this scale of expert to more of a process coach. And if we look at it from problem solving ownership and on this sort of telling versus asking scale too, it has an impact. So when we're in the mode of expert, which is important, we all have developed expertise, we have knowledge that can be helpful. We take on the responsibility for the issue or the problem at hand. And that's great. We need technical experts to fix problems. However, when we're in a people development role, either as a coach or a leader or as a consultant, when we're there with the purpose of helping somebody else develop their skills and capabilities, when we show up as the expert, we're taking over that problem solving, that growth opportunity as well. So for example, the expert, I just had a very serious knee injury a month ago, and I need 2 surgeries. And I went in to see the surgeon and he said, you need 2 surgeries, this is why. And I fully granted him complete problem solving responsibility. He's the expert. I want to leverage his years of training and expertise in this. And if he was just showing up saying, what do you want to do? How do you want to like approach this? Which he did, of course, it was ultimately my decision. It wasn't going to help in that matter because I didn't actually know. I couldn't even read the MRI. When we come in as expert Scrum Masters or expert Lean consultants and take over the opportunity for solving problems, then we're actually missing out on a huge component of our role. So we're there to give the structure for learning. Our expertise is in how to do that and to move things along, but we need to know when we're telling and when we're asking. And again, if you show up as the expert, you are owning the problem versus helping somebody else. So you have to need to know, is this your problem to solve? Or are you there to help somebody else to solve a problem? And this will help you as well. And part of the reason we fall back on this, our expertise and showing up in that way to help, is not out of us trying to actually intentionally take over or tell someone exactly what to do. It's because we're trying to help. We're uncomfortable with seeing other people struggle and to not necessarily know how to do something right away or have the answer. And so part of our challenge is to get more comfortable with allowing people to be uncertain about the path forward, because this is where actually the learning happens. And you know this from your own experience when you're learning a new sport or music or figuring out how to solve a new math problem. There is struggle because you're not an expert yet, but you need an opportunity and a guide to help you move forward with that. So we need to get comfortable with the struggle because that's where the learning happens. And our role as human beings, as coaches, as facilitators and leaders, when we are working to help develop other people's capability and confidence, is knowing how to set a high enough challenge for them, but also provide the support so that they feel like they're moving forward into something greater, but also that you're there to help. They're not drowning, and you're there to help them. And that's where the learning zone happens. And so for us, we often default to the telling component because we're uncomfortable with people in the struggle in the learning zone. So if we're developing a learning organization, we need to have both the technical problem solving skills, the technical Scrum skills, the technical Lean skills, whatever the methods are that we're using, but also know how to coach for problem solving and develop other people as well. And it's about learning to navigate these leadership continuums from, it's not telling or asking, they're not right or wrong, but knowing when to tell and when to ask. It's not that you can't be an expert or to be a coach, but to know when you should be showing up with your expertise and when you should be showing up as a coach. Is not only about going for a challenge or providing support, you need both. And it's not just working towards the business outcomes or the goals or all of the sort of the process that we need to focus on. at the expense of people development and vice versa. We can do them both at the same time. So the art of leadership and about getting out of the telling habit is really about how we navigate these and not default always to the left-hand side. So it's not that the left-hand side's wrong or bad. We don't want to over pivot to only doing asking, coaching, supporting, and people development at the expense of the other side, but it's about knowing where we are on the continuum and how to balance that throughout the day. So I'm going to pause and we're going to dive into the sort of the how of this a little bit more, but I want you to reflect for a moment about a key takeaway or question on your mind from this section and put that into the chat. Yeah, I love your comment there, Jamie. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Absolutely. Yeah, seeing people struggle is not always bad, right? There's a continuum. Please put a takeaway in there. Yeah, it's okay not having the answer. It's either or. It's balancing the continuums. Yeah. Yeah, fade your prompts. I like that as well. And learning to tell not to tell is so hard. And I'm hoping you walk away with a few tangible practices will help you on this way here. So we're going to dive into this a bit, continue to explore this a bit more. And again, it's not that we don't want business outcomes or the results or being an expert. It's about how do we also help engage and develop other people as well. So this leads to the power of asking questions and listening with intention so that we can break our telling habit. So when we ask questions and listen, it's with the intention of gaining clarity on the real challenge or problem, or actually, I should say, helping the other person gain clarity on their real challenge or problem, help them generate possibilities and tap into their creativity, and to build their confidence about the problem-solving process. So about the next step to take and how they're going to go through this problem-solving process. So if we can have the intention of helping someone with clarity, creativity, and confidence, it can help us show up to be helpful that way and not always tell. So there are 4 types of questions categories that I like to use. 3, which are I encourage you to bring into your practice, and 1, number 3, prompting inquiry, which I want you to really focus on eliminating from your practice and paying attention to this for yourself. I'm going to dive into each of these here now briefly. So there's open inquiry, which Edgar Schein calls pure humble inquiry. And this is humble because they're questions for which you do not have the answer. So you're not trying to steer the witness to a preconceived answer or the right thing that the person has to say. You're really asking these questions to help the other person more deeply understand their problem. And these typically start with what or how. So I want you to anchor these words in your mind, in your own language, but what or how. And typically, but not always, because we'll talk about that in a moment, if you ask questions starting with what or how, they are more likely to be open inquiry questions. Diagnostic inquiry questions are important as well. Many of you have probably heard of the 5 whys, where you're taking the cause of a problem or the presenting cause of a problem, really diving in so you understand root cause, sort of peeling away the onion. Really, really important and helpful when you are focused on understanding cause. But if a problem has not been defined yet, this is not necessarily the best method or what type of questioning. So diagnostic inquiry is helpful when we're asking these questions to help somebody understand cause and effect and root cause. So really diving deeper of a defined problem. But caution, when we ask questions starting with why that aren't non-causal questions, especially about why someone thought something or why they did something, it can feel judgmental. So just be aware that those questions perhaps unintentionally can land in the opposite way that you want. So instead of saying like, why did you think that? You could say, what steps led you to that conclusion? So focusing more on the process of the thinking rather than the judgment of someone's own actions and behaviors. Prompting inquiry questions. I'm doing this as alert, alert, alert. I want you to pay attention to this because it is surprising, or it was at least for me, and appalling actually, to realize how many prompting inquiry questions were coming out of my mouth. These are the leading and closed-ended questions your idea with a question mark on it. This is a wolf disguised as a sheep. And these types of questions are actually your ideas dressed up as a question. And beware, they still have the same impact as telling somebody, but you think you're asking. So it's really advocacy in disguise. What if you tried my great idea? Or you're giving multiple choice questions, or there's something could be asked as a yes or a no. You're really making a statement, but disguising it with a question. So when you find yourself doing this, instead of, if you're wanting to ask someone a genuine open question, think about what would be a question that you were coming up with an idea or a solution for somebody or a suggestion. What could be a different question that you could ask? So instead of saying, have you tried talking to Susie in procurement? You could say, who have you talked to so far about this? And then you can hear what their thinking is. And then later, if they, maybe they say, oh, I've talked to Susie, or I'm planning to do these other things. If they don't bring Susie up and Susie has some really important information that could help this person, you could then say, I have a suggestion for you. I know Susie has a lot of information on this topic. She may be able to help you as you're uncovering this. So it's finding that balance there, but not disguising it. And then coaching process inquiry. And these are types of questions that are really asked about the relationship between the two people, so yourself and the other person, or about the problem-solving process. So these types of questions could be, just about how they're going about their thinking process, and also just about how things are going, like, how are you feeling today? Just on the human dimension side. And there's some questions that I really suggest asking too, to help you get some feedback on your own question asking that can also show that you are a human being trying to learn something too, such as what was a helpful question that I asked here today, or how did this help you think about your problem? Not asking a yes or no, like was this helpful, but asking how. And then again, listen openly with patience. And these images are by Karen Ross, my coaching friend and partner that Jamie has done some work with us. And it's about listening with not just open ears, but open eyes, really seeing what's going on. And really, this is where you can see someone struggle. Are they like just struggling because they are uncertain, or are they like really starting to feel like they're flailing and that maybe you need to step in a different and help them in a different way? Listening with an open mind, so not making assumptions about where they are in their learning process or about what actually is happening. And again, with an open heart, so that we're really hearing and feeling the humanity of the other person as well. And I get asked all the time, but what if someone's stuck? I should just jump in. I need to help them. I need to help them move forward. And this is where our challenge with struggle happens. And we need to find that right balance. And I share this with you because there are ways to tell that aren't necessarily telling and taking over the problem solving. This is how we can be more directive or teaching or demonstrating about the process or giving an idea. And this, you may have to navigate this continuum based on what the learner needs to learn or how you can help them. When someone's more of a beginner or really getting stuck, like they're trying a few things and they are not moving forward, in this challenge and support, you may be to provide a little bit more support and say, I'm taking off my coaching hat and I'm going to put my teaching hat on and show you or give you an idea of how I might take on this next step. Or you don't know how to do a Pareto diagram, I can see. Let's work together side by side, and I can show you how you can break down your data or use this tool. So sometimes there are times to teach and coach people in a different way that's not just open inquiry. And I find a lot of times when we're trying to teach people to break their telling habit or to learn how to ask more coaching questions, people over pivot to the other side and think that coaching and developing people is only about asking questions. That's not right. It's about knowing what the learner needs to know. And this can change in the moment. So then you can say, all right, now that we've done this, I'm going to put my coaching hat on. What next step are you going to take? When can I come back and check with you and help you more? And so just being explicit about what you're doing and why can be really helpful too. I'm going to pause again and say, what was a key takeaway from this section? And again, we'll have time to dive into your questions on all of this as well and explore after the next section. Leading questions are really a promotion of your own ideas. Pay attention. You'll be surprised at how often just everyone in our world has the leading questions. Yep, the wolf disguised as the sheep. I'm guilty as charged as well. Yeah, great. The 3 C's, yes. Clarity, creativity, and confidence. So thanks, everyone. And the reason I have these opportunities for you to reflect is that often we're just sort of listening and hearing, but not when we don't take time to reflect or to write something down, and sort of all just gets lost in our head. So these are opportunities for you to anchor some of your own learning as well, and to be more intentional about that. So I want to talk about leading with intention, and that's the name of my book, Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn. And it's really this cycle, because our intention when we're leading should be about helping other people learn. And at the same time, we have to learn to lead, and then lead to help others learn. And it's sort of this cycle that continues as well. And when I was working with Mr. Yoshino, I heard him make, actually, this is the first, before I even met him in 2014. Actually, no, I met him, but 2014, before I moved to Japan. And he was on stage with John Shook, who was the first non-Japanese employee of Toyota Motor Corporation in Japan in 1980s, when Toyota was starting to expand to the US and other countries. And they hired John because they needed help to understand how to work with Americans. And Mr. Yoshino was in charge of the training and development program for the Americans who were coming over from the Numi factory, which was a joint venture between General Motors and Toyota, to learn the Toyota way about management, leadership, problem solving, and process. And John Shook reported to him. Some of you may know John Shook as the author of Managing to Learn, which is a really great resource on A3 thinking. And Mr. Yoshino was actually one of the 2 managers who was John's model for what it means to coach and develop A3s. So it's not just a tool, it's actually a coaching and development process. Mr. Yoshino was on stage with John Shook, though, at this conference, and he said, he was talking about his role as a manager, his purpose as a manager. And he said something to the effect of, my role as a manager was to give John, or whomever was reporting to him, a mission or target. And while he was working, and then to support him while he was working towards that target. And then as I was developing John, I was aware I was developing myself as well. And I was in the audience writing this down thinking, oh my gosh, this is really the essence of leadership purpose. It's about setting the direction, the challenge, the target, so people know where to go or what the expectation is, and then providing support, the systems, the structures, the coaching, the teaching, so that they can reach that target. And then to develop ourselves at the same time, because we need to continuously improve ourselves to get better at setting the direction and how to provide support. And if we can do these 3 things, we're actually really going to be quite effective as leaders or as coaches as well. So I call this the Leading to Learn framework. And it's about providing that direction or challenge that's based on what's needed, not just what is achievable. And I think that's a really important element to put out there too. Too often we either don't have clarity on where we need to go, which is a real challenge into itself, but the targets or the challenge have been set that we kind of think we already can reach. Mr. Yoshino likes to talk about seemingly impossible targets. We don't want it so far out, and this is really that challenge and support continuum. We want it enough out of our range that we're thinking, I don't know if this is possible, but this is where the struggle is, but it challenges us to learn to have cycles of improvement. But we have to have an environment where people are supported at the same time, and there isn't this sense of blame when we make mistakes. So that's we need to do what's actually needed, not just what we think we can achieve. The second part is about providing support, and there's so much in there that providing the support really is about navigating these leadership continuums that we've talked about today and creating the conditions for learning. So that's our expertise when we are in a coaching or the leadership role to support other people? How do we create the conditions that allow them to learn, the systems, the structures, the tools, the questions, and the giving them that space as well? And how do we know how to give enough challenge and enough support so we're in that sweet spot of the learning zone? And then to develop ourselves, because we all have opportunities to improve ourselves. And I really have found that breaking the telling habit is probably the number one or one of the top opportunities for improvement that most leaders or coaches have as well. And to see ourselves all as business conditions that require improvement. It's not just the process that has to be improved or the other people out there as well, that we need to look at ourselves and our contributions to the outcomes through the people that we work with. And I like to talk about intentions versus goals being slightly different. Intentions are, who do you want to be as a person, as a leader, as a coach, as a Scrum Master? You always have a choice about that, how you align your actions with that. And then what do you want to achieve? These are things more external to us, the processes, winning something, making, getting a step up in your career, really succeeding on that project. These are really important as well, but there are external factors that impact whether or not we're going to be able to be successful. But we always have an opportunity to better align our actions with our purpose. So I'm going to give you 3 tangible practices that can help you strengthen the telling habit. Strengthen the habit of asking before telling so you can break your telling habit. And the first is super easy. It's about taking an intention pause, slowing down for a micro moment, 10 seconds, or maybe a little bit longer, and just saying, what's my purpose in this moment, in this upcoming interaction? And what are the actions I need to take that align with that? We are going from Zoom to Zoom, from meeting to meeting, from home to work in this very fluid way, and we get reactive. This is a way to help us stay proactive and make sure that we are clear on what's our purpose in that one moment. And then do we need to be more telling, more directive? Or are we there to be more asking and more coaching? Second is ask a question first to assess what help is needed. We make assumptions that people need us to show up as the expert or to be more directive because they ask us a question or they've asked us for help. So we default to being that expert helper when in fact they may need just a little bit more questions from you as well. So when you ask a question, you can really see, are they struggling or where they need that help before you're jumping into tell or to be directive. This can be really transformational for being a coach or a leader. And the third is to pay attention to the quality of your questions and when you are being the wolf disguised as a sheep. And to know this is not that you're not being malicious, but you're being unintentionally, you're in this telling habit. So beware of advocacy in disguise. And how you amplify your impact is a favorite saying of Mr. Yoshino's and Karen Ross's of mine, that 1 + 1 equals much more than 2. So when we're just in the role of being an expert, we're really just the one. But when we're helping other people develop their creativity, their confidence and clarity on the problems they have responsibility for, we really amplify our impact in our organization. And you probably see behind me, I'm sort of obsessed, I should say, I'm very obsessed with these Daruma dolls. Jamie has one on her desk as well. They are of all various sizes. They're paper mache. Those are the little mini ones. Paper mache dolls from Japan that represent this saying, fall down 7 times, get up 8. They're like little weeble wobbles and they fall, they get back up when you knock them down. It's like a little purple one, but like you can see here, because we're always going to fall down. We're always going to have mistakes, setbacks, but it's about how we get up and continue to get better and learn and move forward. So breaking the telling habit is going to be hard. You're going to fall down many times, but it's about continuing to get up, getting a little bit better each and every day. And so as we start to wind down today too, I want you to take a moment to set your intention about what you're going to practice this coming week, this coming month, to break your telling habit. So take a moment to reflect on that. What's one thing that you're really going to focus on with intention this coming week to start breaking your telling habit? Taking the intention pause, asking the right questions. Yeah, pause, mindful pause, pay attention to your question, quality of questions. Yes, and I have a resource that I've linked to here, and we'll show it again, where you can download a guide about asking some questions and doing some of this as well. Oops, I went back the other way. Didn't animate that. So where we've come from and where we're going, today we just had a quick introduction about the habit of telling in the leadership continuums, how you can better ask and listen, how you can lead with intention by setting direction, providing support, and developing yourself. 3 actions to strengthen your habit of asking, and you set your intention. And I want to invite you also to continue your learning with me, and then we'll jump into some questions. So it's been one of the wonderful things for me in both writing the book and doing the work that I do. And actually from the pandemic was I have a greater opportunity to connect with people around the world like yourself. And this is people showing this chain of learning, which is this concept I learned from Mr. Yoshino. It's like how we're connected to each other to learn and grow together. And we're part of a chain of learning here today. And I also, if you're intrigued by learning more about these concepts and really diving deeper into this, I invite you to join my Leading to Learn Accelerator program, which is starting, the 3rd cohort is starting in March. And it's a 3-month combination of self-paced learning, as well as bi-weekly group discussion and coaching sessions with me, access to Mr. Yoshino, and more. So there's more information for you here. And for the Scrum Masters of the universe, I wanted to offer a special discount code if you wanted to join us on this journey. So there's a QR code here, and Jamie will send out these slides as well. But if you use Scrum 100 and enroll by the end of the week, you get $100 off, which is my gift to all of you. And thanks to Jamie for allowing me to continue to connect with all of you. But we're really going to dive into all the lessons from the book, talk more about these leadership continuums and so much more. So I really encourage you to, this is intriguing to you, to reach out to me with any questions and enroll by the end of this week to take advantage of the discount. So I'm going to have one more question for you before we move into your questions. What one word describes your learning experience here today? And put that into the chat. Pause. It can be the same word as anyone else. It doesn't have to be the perfect word. Humbling, mindful, informed, intentional, pause, intentional, balance. Great, insightful. Thank you, everyone. So keep putting those in there. And then, yeah, and we'll come back to sharing more information about those links here for how do you get the Break the Telling Habit guide, as well as the information on joining the accelerator here today. And then you can always connect with me. Here's all my information. Again, the guide to break your telling habit, and also the discount code and a QR code to just go right to the enrollment page. And then you can use Scrum 100 at the checkout. So there you go. And I look forward to your questions now in the next 12 to 15 minutes we have in the wrap up. So thank you, everyone, for allowing me to share some of my insights and things I have learned through trial and error and intentional practice. And I still fall down 7 times, or many times, and get up 8, but it's about that intentional getting better every day. So thank you. What questions do you have?
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, what question? What's on your mind? What questions do you have?
That'd be really fun. I don't know. We can give people some chance, but if you had like 2 or 3 minutes, it'd be fun to practice a coaching.
Sure.
Model the coaching.
Yeah.
Style of breaking the telling habit, real life situation.
Sure. Someone
had a topic.
Yeah.
If you're a volunteer, you'd have a small topic. I don't know if anybody's going to volunteer.
All right. Well, we can do you, Jamie, too. But we have a question in here. Why don't you ask it live so we can dig into that?
Okay. So what questions do you ask when learners respond to an ask? Is it, let's see, is not a priority or do not have time? I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand that. So I think what they're saying is, what do you ask when responding to someone asking it if it's a priority or don't have time? I don't know. Robin,
Who asked that
can
question?
you maybe unmute and ask that again? I'm not sure I'm understanding.
All right, I can elaborate. Yeah, I work in continuous improvement, and sometimes people ask, or you're suggesting, how can I help you achieve your continuous improvement idea? But a lot of people kind of say, well, in their daily priorities, you're always busy with, other accountable stakeholder activities, right? Sometimes there's something you really like them to do to help them grow, but they just simply, cannot find the time to do it. What kind of questions or suggestions do you have to help motivate people to find the time to take the priority to, take some time to learn from and move away from their daily struggles and kind of reprioritize?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I have a clarifying question for you here too, so that I understand the context. And again, I'm just going to highlight what I'm doing. I'm going to be asking sort of I want to understand some more context here. So I'm asking for a clarifying question, which is okay to do too. But are you're in I heard you say that you're in a continuous improvement role. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right. Yep.
And then who are the people that you're working with?
They're mostly engineers, people who, they part of their role is to try and suggest new ideas for improvement in manufacturing. But again, they have other priorities and kind of stakeholders asking them to do their regular roles and responsibilities. Continuous improvement's always kind of, an afterthought. But also taking the time to learn about new ways of doing things is something that we kind of get bogged down on. And I guess, my question is more on how do you ask people to take the time to learn something without telling them that they have to do it because, management wants to go that direction, but making it more of an organic, they want to do this because X, Y, Z, motivational, I guess, way of communicating to them that it's important, but we're not telling you to do it. We're asking you to do it because, again, this is kind of what I'm asking, right? What kind of things would you, kind of questions would you ask or things would you say to try and bring it more to a organic level of them wanting to learn it versus you have to tell them that, look, you have to learn this tool because this is the direction the company wants to take.
Right. It sounds like you are a bit stuck because one of the challenges of being an internal sort of coach or consultant is that you don't have necessarily that telling role. If this is truly a mandate from their leaders, then it's the leader's responsibility to set that direction, the expectation, and the clarity, and then you can come in and help support that tool. You will be in a pinch spot, though, if that has not been clearly communicated to the people reporting. That being said, you can always ask questions to help people understand what are the problems that bother them every day? How can we work on those? What are the things getting in their way? And remembering to see them as human beings as well, and tapping into the challenges that they're having, or what you're seeing as resistance is coming from some other place. So how can you ask questions to really understand the barriers that they're having as well? But if this is really a mandate or an expectation, that comes from their leaders or their managers. And that's something that you'd have to explore as well.
That's helpful, thanks.
You're welcome. Who else has a question? And I don't have all the answers. I can just share my perspective. Counting to 10 in my head, because when we ask a question, we have to give space for thinking. And usually we say, any questions? Okay, great, let's move on. And so part of the asking questions is also about getting comfortable with some space for people to think. So it's very uncomfortable for me to have the silence, but you also need opportunity to think. But if there are no other questions, we can go back. I just want to remind you here as well. So please connect with me. There's a lot more on my website and on my, I write new articles and videos all the time about asking questions and leading with intention. And again, we'll dive into this a lot more in my accelerator program. Oh, Amber asked a question. Amber, why don't you ask it out loud? It's always easier to hear what people are, what's really uncut underneath that when someone asks it.
Yeah, so I'm working with a new Scrum team, and they are really just tell us what to do. Tell us what to do. Okay, what do we do here? And not really like a why or teach us this process. But every meeting, it's just, are we doing it right? Tell us what to do. So do you have any tips to get my team into a learning space so that when I do ask these open-ended questions, I can get a genuine response?
Yeah. What's one example of this when it happens?
So, for example, like writing a user story. They might be working on something. Okay, Amber, how do we write this ticket? Like, how do we write the title? And I try to prompt them, well, who is our customer here? Who is this ticket for? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? And those kinds of questions. But they're constantly just asking like, so what do we put? And I'm not an engineer. Like, I don't know the language to use and stuff. So I'm wanting them to get in more of a learning headspace.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing like the right sort of steps that I would suggest of asking them the questions and putting that out there. It sounds, and again, I don't know your situation, and so I'm jumping in with a little more telling right now, but it sounds like maybe they are more beginner on that, that continuum of expert to novice to expert. But how can you help paint a pathway for them that, it's their responsibility, and that you're in clarifying your role, you're there to help teach them so that and you won't be there all the time. You're helping grow them so that they can do this on their own. So you can have an impact in the broader part of the organization, or that they can move faster. And that's the intention behind your questions as well. It sounds like you're doing that right thing too, explaining you don't actually know the content, they do.
Mm-hmm.
So asking them what's your first draft? Okay, now I'm going to work with you and let's revise that together. So kind of moving between that teaching or directive part, but still putting some step-by-step responsibility on them, and even clarifying your role and the reason why you're asking the questions, or whatever that could be.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. I know you probably all need a few minutes to transition to your next meeting. And so thanks, Jim. I look forward to hearing your feedback about the book. Yeah, that's great too, getting the team members to document their process and sharing it. Yep. So put yourself in that facilitator role. So thanks everyone. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you. Reach out with any questions. I'd love to have some of you in the accelerator program, or even just reading the book and learning from the shared wisdom of Mr. Yoshino and what I've picked up along the way as well. So thank you, Jamie. Oh, Myra, thank you so much.
Yes.
I love that.
Thank you so much for coming, Katie. Really, really always enjoy having you here with us at Scrum Masters of the Universe. And I encourage you all to check out the opportunity for the accelerator, the Leading to Learn Accelerator program. It's highly recommended. I'm really jealous because I actually want to do that. It's not good timing for me, but I'm going to try to catch it next time. So you guys can all tell me about it if you take it. So thanks everyone for coming, and I wish you a fabulous week. It's a good start to a Monday. So Thanks
Team
again,
Monday.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Happy
Thank
Monday.
you for your
Thanks,
time.
Daisy. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh.
We'll be looking forward for the YouTube recording. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, we'll put it on YouTube.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Visha.
Have a great week. Break that telling habit.
Yeah, I have to really focus on that because I know, like my previous job, I was more of an analyst, so I was required to do more telling than coaching. So
Yes, well, that's right. Especially when we're moving from these roles where we actually have content, like it is our job to do the you do the thing. We're in there, the expert.
yeah,
We're in
yeah.
a coach or leadership role, and sometimes we're wearing multiple hats
Yeah.
throughout the day, right? So
Well, that's especially, I think, being a Scrum Master, we have so many different hats we wear, and that's probably the biggest hurdle is trying to figure out which hat you should be wearing at a given time. But you know, time and experience helps. And
yep.
Anyway, thank you, Katie. Have a great rest of your day.
You're
I hope
welcome,
your knee is
Jamie.
healing.
Oh yeah, I'm getting ready for surgery
gentlemen.
too. Thank you so
Oh.
much for the invitation and for the recommendation, opportunity to connect with your great audience. And send me the link to the recording too when you get that. So
I will do that. All right. Thanks, Katie.
bye, Jamie. Bye bye.